Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HMP. I am your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he longs for the days when a pack of smokes only cost 2 bits. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Oh, do I ever.
Well, the glory days, they've done passed us by, everybody. Bruce Leslie still on assignment out there living his Hollywood dreams and stuff like that, which is always good. He'll join us at some point, surely. But this week, everybody, we are talking the new movie from Wes Anderson, Asteroid City, stepping out of the old HMP box a little bit here. And I think we're going to have some...
I mean, this is a secret Sean loves spaceships episode.
Yeah, so little did you know that we were going to sneak yet one more of these in, just in case. If we didn't have enough cool spaceship stuff and throughout this entire month, we'll snag one more in there. Why not? And if it's from Wes Anderson, it's probably not going to be the same old spaceships and stuff. But
no, definitely not. Which continues the theme this month. It seems like June is absolutely bananas movies.
Yeah, it's like, let's just see what other weird kind of thing that we can do. And
when Across the Spider-Verse is the most normal movie that you've reviewed in the last month, you're doing something right.
Yeah. It's the one that we just go like, well, we've seen things like this before, and but this other stuff, you're like, oh, what is this? I've never seen anything like that. But we've been talking about Asteroid City. But before we do want to say a giant thank you to the people that support the show over at patreon.com/HMP. Awesome folks get the pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. This week's Dinger Zone, we talk about the future superhero movies, where things are going, what DC's thought process is going into all of this stuff, because I don't know what you've been seeing in the last couple of months and stuff, but things are getting wild out there, and we got Secret Invasion coming up. We'll talk about that at the end of the show and everything. But Secret Invasion. I almost always want to say Secret Wars accidentally.
I have done that.
I think I wrote that down in my first, one of my first scripts for the show and everything. And I go, this episode is Secret War. Nope, incorrect.
Especially since there is going to be the Secret War later.
Yeah, we're going about things in all of a wild and crazy manner and stuff. But to find out about things about that and more, of course, head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Help be a part of this show and keep the old train a-running. We really appreciate that. And if you can't do that, at least drop over to the iTunes and drop us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Or
even Spotify, for heaven's sake. Even they got star rating systems over there. You can't write anything, but for heaven's sake, just throw a review up there of 5 stars. You don't even have to write stuff out. Spotify, we do it for lazy people. I think that's their official thing that's right underneath the door.
It's just written in Scandinavian, but yes.
Yeah, you can't really read it too well, because I don't know if you don't know the language or anything else like that. But patreon.com/HMP. All right, everybody. This week we are talking the new movie from Wes Anderson, Asteroid City. Let's go ahead and read the IMDb plot line for Asteroid City. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Following a writer on his world-famous fictional play about a grieving father who travels with his tech-obsessed family to a small rural that's a tough word for me to say. Rural Asteroid City to compete in a junior stargazing event, only to have his world view disrupted forever. Directed by Wes Anderson, story by Wes Anderson and Roman Coppola, screenplay by Wes Anderson. We don't have a comic book connection because Bruce isn't here, and surely this would be one of the toughest things in the world. So let's talk a little bit about Wes Anderson and just kind of what our thoughts are on him as like a director going into this, so people have a point of reference for us.
Sure. So I think I said this last week on the main episode that Wes Anderson, I didn't realize it until last week, actually, that he's one of the rare directors that I see his movies in a movie theater when I can. Like, I didn't see The French Dispatch in a movie theater. But for the most part, every other movie of his I've seen in a movie theater. And I think that has to do with the visuals of all his movies. And I understand that he is not for everyone. I understand that some people are like, and look, if you don't like Wes Anderson, don't bother seeing this movie. This is the most Wes Anderson-y movie ever made.
Yeah, it's as him as it gets. And if you don't like it before, this is not going to be the one that changes your mind.
Definitely not. And he has such a distinct style that there's even jokes of, what if the X-Men was directed by Wes Anderson? and people make those videos, and it looks like a Wes Anderson movie, but it's the X-Men,
I mean,
you
there
know?
was there was a great just before this movie came out and everything, a wild trend on TikTok of people creating Wes Anderson themed TikToks and stuff of like imitating his style of shooting and everything with the color palette with the
Mhm.
framing and stuff like that. And so that's also why I wouldn't be surprised if this movie has a little bit of legs in it because people have been kind of in a fun way, in a good way, kind of memeing it around the internet and stuff. So I think this is something that a lot of people are actually kind of looking forward to. I think.
I agree. And he does have such a distinct style that you can tell when someone is influenced by his work.
Hmm.
And that is that is becoming rarer and rarer these days. I think that uh he is someone who I'm going to continue to see his movies, but he is becoming dangerously close to being like Tim Burton, where Tim Burton started making Tim Burton movies and he happened to be Tim Burton.
Hmm.
I think that we are right at that edge with Wes Anderson, um, specifically with this movie. And I think that uh, he just came onto the scene so quickly, and I think that Bottle Rocket, which is the least Wes Anderson movie he's ever made, and he just gets progressively more Wes Anderson as each movie goes on.
Yeah.
But everyone would really love to see the magic of the Royal Tenenbaums again. I think that that's what a lot of people wish for when they go into a Wes Anderson movie, and I think that that's impossible. I don't think that that will ever happen again. That movie is succinct and perfect as is, and I think that thinking that he's going to try to do that again is folly because he is not that guy anymore. He is
No.
not that filmmaker anymore. And there's a level of expertise when it comes to his Wes Andersoniness, specifically with this movie, that I has reached levels that I think is the second wave of the Wes Anderson movie, like like using miniatures and using special effects and using backdrops, but like specifically seeing the car at the end of the movie this week. Spoilers, by the way,
Hmm.
seeing it drive off into the sunset when that is clearly a painted backdrop. That is sort of the Wes Andersoniness of his movies now, where it's more of let's see how cute this guy is actually going to try to get, because
Hmm.
there is a whole lot of cuteness in this movie.
And at the same time, as is often the case with Wes Anderson work, also cribbed in a lot of darkness as well at the exact same
Well, there
time.
is that, yes.
Which is kind of that thing that the juxtaposition of things that are on screen versus a lot of things that are going on screen are often really great. But I started out my first Wes Anderson movie just because it had enough buzz and stuff and people were talking about it, and eventually you're just like, all right, I got to see what this is. Was the Royal Tenenbaums, and let me tell you, that is not the first one to see. If you don't know
No.
what you're getting into with Wes Anderson, you have no form of reference. I was just like, I do not. The second that he was just like, "Fly, Mordecai," and that's in like the first 5 seconds of that movie, and the Beatles covers play, and I'm like, what in the hell am I watching? This is awful. I watched the whole thing, and I was just like, I don't see what people are seeing. And then, maybe a year or so elapsed after that, and I was like, all right, maybe I'm going to go back and give another try. I'm going to start from the beginning, just see if, see what I'm missing here. And he didn't have that big a filmography at that point. So I go back, I watch Bottle Rocket, and I'm like,
Rushmore.
well, first Bottle Rocket. And I
Mm.
was just like, because I was literally, I'm starting at the beginning. So I watched Bottle Rocket and I go, okay, I mean, it's competently made for an indie kind of film and stuff like that. That's about what I figured. But I'm like, the comedy's just not what I'm looking for or whatever. Saw Rushmore, liked it well enough, but again, there was enough of a quirk there where I was just like, okay, I kind of see what this guy does, but I'm not really that big a fan or whatever. Cut to a couple of years later, seeing Fantastic Mr. Fox, and all of a sudden it dawned on me that Wes Anderson's just been making live action animation his entire career. It's just with people. He's just been doing this weird quirky thing that's been animation, but it's been with like live actors, real people instead of drawings. And that it all kind of clicked for me there. And I went back and like really looked at it through the kind of auteur lens of everything and go, oh, I see what this guy's doing with everything. And for whatever reason, it all clicked with me from there and just kind of went back, rediscovered, and, fell in love with everything at that point.
I can remember you, even on this show, saying that you weren't a big Wes Anderson fan.
Yeah.
And so for this turnaround to happen, where you suggest Asteroid City to me, the guy who came up with Sean Love's Spaceships, here we are.
And here we are.
I think that as we go on, right? Because I think that this movie is going to do very well for what this movie cost.
Yeah.
And he's already even got his next movie, I think, in the can. Am I right?
I'm not sure. If it's not, it maybe they're going into production. I'm not sure, but it's like he's booking on things these days.
I think it's either in post-production or they are darn close to it. Because when I was looking for the Stallone connection this week, it kept coming up, like the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. Yeah, they're in post-production right now. They've shot it.
Well, there you go. See, like he's not stopping it. Now I'm getting even more angry at Fox Searchlight, Focus, whoever needs to get on their ball and start putting out these Criterion Blu-rays. We still don't have Isle of Dogs. We still don't have French Dispatch. We got this movie. We got another one coming. Get on your stuff, guys. We need these special edition Blu-rays. That's my rant for the day.
Very good. I didn't realize that this was a Roald Dahl adaptation. The Henry Sugar movie, his next one.
Yeah, I think I vaguely heard about that.
This was one where I was I'm kind of surprised by that he's going back to that again, because I don't think that Fantastic Mr. Fox was something that he would call crazy successful.
No, I think it had a lot longer legs than people
I think
expected.
that's probably what it is, right? Is that it's one of those movies that it probably didn't do very well in the beginning, but then 10 years in, people are like, you know what, that's a really good movie. I think that's probably what happened here.
Well, let's get into this movie, and let me sell everybody on this Junior Stargazer's adventure with Wes Anderson, because this sucker's got everything. We got the signature Wes Anderson style, but with a few missing, exceptions this go around. We'll talk about it. It's a movie about a play based on a made-up story. I think. Look, it's a Wes Anderson movie. You know the drill. We've got the best cast since, well, the last Wes Anderson movie, if we're honest. We've got deserts, a dead parent, an estranged parent, a hot teacher, sexy cowboy man, an alien, Ed Norton, the one who knocks Kevin Dillon's brother, different aspect ratios, the You Dare Me kid, Michael Scott, interesting sound design, witches and science experiments, God talk, Tupperware, photographs and auditions, miniatures, Tilda Swinton, the Green Goblin, Harley Quinn, Sabretooth, and you thought this wasn't a comic book movie. This sucker's got everything.
It does. There's basically everything in here.
It is, like you said, this is the kind of culmination of Wes Anderson in a lot of ways, because first of all, let's just talk about the design of this thing, because like as much as he's known for having a very specific style and everything, this is like over the top even for him, I think.
Yes, and the cuteness to which this movie is made, I even found cloying at times. The fact that we start off out the gate, and I even said this before I saw the movie. I think I even said it on the show that I want to live in Asteroid City. And so
yes,
to have that already taken away from at the top of this movie by having the narrator tell you, Bryan Cranston tell you, oh, this is a fiction. This is what you are about to see is the movie version of a play that has been done already.
Yeah, and that was one of the this was the most they hit you right off the bat with like an Inception puzzle where you're like, okay, how does this all put together here? Narratively, in a lot of ways, one of his more complicated films in that measure.
it took me a minute to figure out that Adrian Brody is the director of the play that this movie is based on. It took me like I was like, okay, and it's part of the issue with this movie with me. I think that it's a good movie. It has its own style, of course, because it's Wes Anderson. But I would call this a middle of the road Wes Anderson movie, just because there are so many moments where I found myself rolling my eyes,
Hmm.
and just the way that this movie is structured is one of those things that made me roll my eyes. I'm not asking uh for a ton here. I'm just asking, how about you give us a little suspension of disbelief? I understand that the sets look like sets. I can get past that, I promise you. And it seems like an easy out to me, especially with somebody who he's been working with the same production designer forever.
Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name, but it's the same guy that he's used for, like, on Grand Budapest Hotel, and even before that. And those sets were similar in that, like French Dispatch, you you would have the front of a set leave camera, and then the camera would go into the set.
Hmm.
Like, I get it. I get that this is who Wes Anderson is. You don't need to have this weird thing where, like this is based on a play and this was written beforehand. Like, I don't need any of that.
Yeah. The preamble, and I and even the weird, and again, spoilers for everything for everybody if you're new to the show. Um, I don't know. I laughed at it. I thought it was funny, like the Bryan Cranston showing up in the part that's not his, where he doesn't
Oh
belong.
yeah, I'm not in this scene. Yeah, that was
Oh,
funny.
am I not supposed to? I'm sorry. This is kind of backed out. I'm like, oh, that joke felt like it was in there for me. Because that's some bull crap that I like, where it's just like, oh, I'm not supposed to. I'm sorry. Let me just step right on out here.
But part of the problem with that is that when right from the get of go, there's no stakes anymore. There, like, the plot of your movie is gone now when you do that straight away. And having that's a funny joke for sure. But when every little aside like that, it's like, oh right, this is not real, you know. And I know it's like you said, it's layers of inception here, but you have to be able to work on your own crap. Like, your screenplay has to be able to work by itself. And I found this movie very long, even though, what's the runtime on this thing? I want to
Hour
say it's
46. It's not. It's
yeah,
not
it's
even
not even
two.
that long. It just feels that long because you don't have the engine moving this movie along.
No, you show up at Asteroid City and you pretty much stay there the majority of the time, and you know there's not a lot going on,
Right.
and that's kind. I mean, it's part of the point, but there's not also not a lot going on.
Also, I noticed something with the screening of this movie, which is that, and it's the first time I realized this. When you're watching a Wes Anderson movie, it is funny. Like, there are funny moments for sure. But this is the big payoff you're looking for the jokes in his movies. Huh, that's it. That is basically the reaction that you're going to get from most people.
Now, at the same time, too, like I have a little bit more than that, and specifically at this screening because we had a decent amount of people there.
Mhm.
Um, I ended up in the front row, which again didn't mind because it's a small theater, so it wasn't like it was that big of a strain or anything. I had to have been laughing like Max Cady for these people because there's a couple of moments where I'm just like, you laugh and I'm sorry, are the rest of you dead inside? No one else. Okay, all right, good for you. Not laughing at stuff that's funny, people, but far be it from
Well,
me.
I mean, but again, it's not really super laugh out loud funny stuff.
No. But every now and then there's something, and
I mean,
I
the
forget.
funniest part in this movie is in the trailer where she says, "Do you want me to reenact my nude scene?" and he doesn't say anything,
Oh
and
yeah. That
and he goes, did my mouth say the words? Yes, the answer is yes.
yeah, I thought it was like, yeah, that got a big audience reaction for sure.
That's the biggest laugh line in the movie, and that literally got a from most people in the theater, myself included. Like that's the level of humor you're getting from this. However, what you do get is in true Tom Hanks fashion, like true Tom Hanks comedy movies past the 80s, where everyone's always smiling watching these movies. Because I looked around a couple of times and everyone's just ear to ear grin as they're watching it, which is neat. Like that's what it should be.
Uh, there's I one of the other hilarious. I just that alien and
Oh, so good.
the fact that I love the stop action of it and everything, but the
Mhm.
best part is watching that and then later finding out Jeff Goldblum
Jeff
plays the
Goldblum.
alien. You watch how that alien moves and you're just going, "Oh, they 100% watched how Jeff Goldblum moved and animated this thing to move like him." And
Oh, I disagree. I think that alien moves exactly like Fantastic Mr. Fox.
oh well, that's and I'm saying Jeff Goldblum moves like that, and if he were to be this role, that's how he would do it. With the and I love like the just the big white eyeballs with the black dots for pupils, and how they just looking back and forth, the slowness of it. I love that. There's just something so stupid of like I'm an alien, I'm coming down, I'm stealing this thing, I'm doing it right in front of all of you. You're all looking at me. I'm looking at you. Are you gonna let me do this? I'm gonna do it. I'm picking it up. Bye now. And then he just leaves. Then they just leave.
Man,
It's
how's so I've been, while you've been vamping, I've been looking up Adam Stockhausen, who is the production designer for Wes Anderson. And he basically comes into the picture during Moonrise Kingdom. And you want to talk about somebody whose job is very specific and unique. It is this man. However, when he's not working on Wes Anderson stuff, he's working with another director, Steven Spielberg.
oh, some so and so startup.
And he is one, two, three, four Spielberg movies deep now.
How's that all?
Yeah, Bridge of Spies, Ready Player One, which, whatever. West Side Story and Indiana Jones.
Shoot.
Yeah, he's been doing okay, this fella. But I mean, there's a reason why he's working with the best. It's because the man is uniquely talented with specific things, right?
Yeah, and very, and as you could tell from the list of titles here, specific and varied things.
Yes.
Which is the
Yes.
quite the impressive part, because a lot of times it's just like, oh, this guy's good at doing this. You didn't see H.R. Giger doing a lot of pastels.
No, very true. Very true. And even before he was the production designer, he was Wes Anderson's art director on Darjeeling Limited. So the guy has been working with him for, at the very least, what's Darjeeling Limited? 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 15 years, 2007. So he knows the style. And that is the thing with Wes Anderson, is that he kind of sort of needs the same people around him, because you need to be able to speak a shorthand when your movies are this intricate, right?
And
Like,
somebody that knows your language and says, he's going to like this, or this. I'll give him these choices. He'll get one of these. And like, that's especially if you work with somebody that many times, you know exactly what they want, what they're looking for. And like you said, there's a shorthand that he just goes like, no, do it like such and such. And they go, got it. And it's just done. And you need that when you're putting together something where there's no set that resembles anything that we've seen in our modern day reality.
I watched an interview with this guy recently, and he's basically talking about working with Wes Anderson. And he says, there's a lot of things that work on Wes's sets where it's pull a pin, move the wall. Like there's a lot of things that behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it has to. I mean, especially when you're looking at just the most Wes Anderson-y movies because I think that he's getting more and more Wes Anderson as we go along. I mean, you look at French Dispatch, you look at Grand Budapest Hotel. Those are far more Wes Anderson-y than even the movies that were before that.
Yeah.
I think Moonrise Kingdom is very Wes Anderson-y also, but not to the level of the way that the sets look.
Yeah, he's been
Where
able to dial it up because he's gotten more cachet through the industry. He's been successful with the things that he's done. Like, and even outside of this, a lot of people don't realize he's also, still does ad campaigns for stuff like, American Express and things like that.
Yeah.
So like he's not opposed to going out and doing things outside of just even the regular, movie making field and stuff.
So it sounds like you like this movie a lot. You may even like this movie more than I do, it sounds like.
I like it decent enough. I need to see it again for sure because like there's one of the great and bad things about his movies is there's a lot going on. And
There is.
And especially if you are somebody who kind of wants to absorb all the things that are going on in a Wes Anderson movie, especially in a movie like this, that is difficult to do because there's so much going on, not only just visually but story structure wise. There are points where I'm confused and I'm like, is this what I think it is? Or then there's like subplots that I'm like, did that even go anywhere? I mean, for example, I'll bring it up because it seemed odd because we don't have a ton of like just relationships period in a lot of Wes Anderson movies outside of like, I don't want to say platonic, but things that aren't, it's not over sexualized, I guess.
Right.
In a lot of ways. So like the Ed Norton with who's the other guy? Oh, in the whole playwright thing.
Are you talking about the actor?
Yeah, well, the actor and everything that's kind of going on. So when he's going through the like, was that a gay subplot halfway in there?
It's the actor and the playwright.
Right.
The actor who is in the movie and is also in the play are gay. Yes.
Okay. That's like it was again so many like because you have to kind of like keep the play, the real life, the play about the play and the movie all Legoed up in the same kind of factor. So it's like sometimes it's hard to juggle all the balls, and I'm just like, what's real? What?
Because Schwartzman is basically playing an actor.
Yes.
And then he is well, you know what? Let's go Russian nesting dolls on this. So there's there's the actor who is playing the role of Augie. Yeah, Augie.
The dad.
The dad. And he's the dad in the movie, and he played the dad in the play, and he meets the writer, the playwright. And that is where the homosexuality comes
and he's
in.
kind of like he was like an inspiration for the play in a way. Am I wrong about that?
He's auditioning for the play.
Was that his way of auditioning? Was kind of sneaking on like that, delivering things? Was that
by showing the playwright that he knows the character better than the playwright does?
Right.
And that's when we get the kiss. And
that's also why it was just confusing because like it never like once they kind of like resolve that those two get together, it's never spoken of again.
Right.
But I mean, I was just like,
I mean, what's more Wes Anderson than having a sexual relationship between two characters, and it's only briefly mentioned.
And then that was it. It was just like, well, was this the prerequisite?
Not just between those two, it's also with the character that Schwartzman's playing with Scarlett Johansson's character.
Now that I think about it, like, and again, this is why you need to go back and watch it again. Is our playwright Scarlett Johansson's character in this thought process? I don't know. Again, that's now. I mean, because I just thought about that now, so I'm just like, oh well, now that you mentioned that, I'm like, is she the stand-in for him in this? Because he's in the entertainment. I don't know.
you know, is usually my want to do is to try to figure out what the filmmaker's trying to tell us, right? Like I try to find the subtext in every and all of these movies that we see. I cannot really figure out what he's trying to tell us here.
This is a tough read, this movie.
I think I'm guessing. I think what he's trying to say is it's important to move on, and the only way to move on is to busy yourself with with the next thing. Is kind of what I think. It's a guess. I can't even tell. It's why when I see this movie again, I'll know if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, I'm not even sure because, like, I mean, there's part of it like there's
The
everything from like waxing on the existence of God to like the
Right.
power of man and war and things like that. So it's like there's everything from divorce and death and like, and while people might think that like this guy going around with his his kids and everything and them not knowing the death of their mother, that's not as far fetched as you might think.
No,
Things like that
no.
actually happen, and I know some people. I won't go into it, but I know some people where they found out some things that they were just like, "How on earth do you not know that?" Sometimes people do not know.
And I thought that was gonna be the game of this movie. I thought the game would be you gotta keep it away from the kids that mom's dead.
Hmm.
But that breaks down in the I mean, geez, you're talking the beginning of the first act, And so they know. And so, okay, that game's gone. So where's the game? And so basically, this movie works in a way like far more like French Dispatch does than Grand Budapest Hotel, where the game keeps changing, right? That it goes from that to, okay, now we're all quarantined here, even though the quarantine doesn't even happen until the end of the second act of this movie.
Yeah,
And I mean, it just shifts where you think that like you think Tom Hanks is going to be more combative towards Schwartzman's character, but they're not really combative at all. They understand each other. They just don't really like each other a ton.
I did like how it kind of laid out the act structure for us and everything ahead of time. They're just like, all right, the act one takes place on the first day, the act two takes place the following day, and then act three takes place 1 week after that. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's nice. How they, we you remember that as the movie goes on and stuff. So when you have those, now, did you like the kind of interstitial, like just like little act break things? Was that something that is that
I
too
think
much
it's
Wes Anderson
fine.
for you?
I think it's fine. Right. Like I think that I'm okay with that with the act breaks. I'm also okay with the fact that it's a thing within a thing within a thing. But I think my biggest problem with it was that they start out that way. Like it's not even a surprise. Like
Mhm.
it's bookended with that. And I think that that's my issue with it is that you're telling everyone right up front that this is not real. And when you have a movie that's an hour and 40 minutes long, you need momentum, and that takes all of the momentum out of your plot. Like don't get me wrong, I think the performances are great. The visuals, oh my god, it's in every poster and trailer for this movie. But the kid trying to get out of quarantine by using his jetpack and
Yes.
having the rope around his leg as the army's trying to pull him back down, that is such a stunning visual. There, it's so unreal but
But
perfect.
also hyper real at the same time, which is weird.
Yes. And there's so many different moments. Like I love the juxtaposition of them in the windows. Midge and Augie speaking to each other through the windows. Scarlett Johansson
Mhm.
and Jason Schwartzman speaking to each other through each other's windows in the trailer. You get a sense of that it's hot out. You get a sense that there is a lot going on with the character that Jason Schwartzman's playing, and they even bring it up later in the behind the stage thing where the director says, you got a lot going on with this character. You got the eyebrow, you got the pipe, you got, like all of that stuff.
He does have a lot of things to work with.
There are a lot of mannerisms, and I didn't realize it, but this main character behaves basically like Fantastic Mr. Fox does, where he's got so many different weird things that like mannerisms. It's pretty interesting.
No whistle though. That's the part.
No, which I'm glad that they didn't do the whistle, but they did do the eyebrow. And they
Mm.
and just having them bring up the eyebrow was funny because I was like, somebody's gonna bring that up in this movie.
Scarlett Johansson. I listen. She's she's consistently good and stuff. I'm never.
When she's good, she's great.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's
Yes.
like she's always gonna be at least fairly serviceable. Now she may not be given the best material to work with all the time, but she's gonna. It feels like she shows up whenever she goes to something. It doesn't feel like she's phoning in a lot of stuff these days.
I think that sometimes she does.
Save for Black Widow, that's a whole can of worms. But yeah.
Right. But I think that happens, you give her the right director, you give her the right script, she's gonna be great. She's been doing this since she was a small child, so you'd think that she'd be able to hit this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good point. Good point. You've been doing this for a bit. You should be decent, right?
She's basically been in the public eye for 30 years. I mean, she's as hard as that is to imagine, it has been 30 years that she's been a working actor.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that seeing her mature, I guess is the right word. She's trying to get out of the I'm the sexy bad girl kind of a thing, like that
Hmm.
seems to be going away with her, and she's turning into, like, this is her third mother role in 5 years. It's interesting to see her progress into that, like she's no longer, hey, I'm just here because I'm hot,
Yeah.
you know
And finally, somebody where it's funny. I would have figured that with her height and everything, Jason Schwartzman would be like, "Listen, we got to be standing beside each other in as many of these frames as we possibly can." You know how many other women are towering over me, like everything in the world. I got somebody on my height level here, and you're gonna put me in a window against her in a window in singles? Come on now, what are you doing to me?
Yeah. And, I think
Cut the
that
man some slack.
I think every performance in this movie is basically great, and it's the reason why Wes Anderson is able to get all of these people, because he's going to make you look really good.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
everybody's got their little moment. Jeffrey Wright's moment, his speech and everything is just fantastic.
Yep.
Tilda Swinton's just looking like an alien as always, just doing just the Lord's work over here, just going like,
Yeah.
I'm just being weird. Like, I love it so much.
I mean, Secret Weapon, Rupert Friend. Who saw that coming?
Oh my God. Can we talk about he looks and feels like he is from the 50s.
Yeah.
He's just so great. I was just like, I was shocked at how I was just like unexpected, especially from that guy who I'll be honest, at times has been bland in some things, and maybe that's not his fault, but I really enjoyed him in this, and old what's her face too was quite good.
Oh, what's her face? Who's that?
The teacher. I'm trying to. Oh shucks, what's her
Oh,
name?
right. Maya Hawke.
My Hawk. Yeah, I was just like famous parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she was great too. All the kids were fantastic. Just great Wes Anderson kids, just with
Oh, man.
signature faces and voices and stuff like that. So good.
So cute.
And I love the idea, the weird traveling school and the hey, we've been teaching you all about this space stuff, and I know that we just came across some aliens, so maybe all this isn't as accurate as maybe we had thought previously, but we're gonna try to push through this lesson as best we can. Then they all got questions about the aliens, and I've written a song. Again, it comes from that. It pulls from that great 50s stuff that made
Yeah.
no sense, where it's just there's no reason for a song to be here, but by gum, I think we need one.
We're going to put one there anyway.
And it's fun. And here's the thing. It's a fun song. You enjoy it. You're just like, you know what? That's kind of what this movie actually needed right now.
So I've got a bit of information here. that it surprised me when I learned it. But you know the three sisters in this movie, the three little girls, his three daughters.
Yes.
They're actually sisters in real life.
I could see that just, but I mean, like, number one, they,
Though I thought that they were doing something very Wes Anderson-y because two of the girls look exactly the same. But there's the third girl, the one girl who doesn't look as much like the others do.
yeah.
And I thought that that's what they were doing. That there was two sisters and then one that wasn't actually in real life a sister. But no, it's all three. All three of them are sisters.
Wes Anderson constantly wants some black sheep in the family. It's like, well,
That's really what I thought.
yeah.
I honestly thought that he was doing that on purpose because one of them does not look much alike.
Yeah, there is every once in a while those families where like somebody will like, you know for a fact everybody's related, but it's like this one kid doesn't look like all the other ones.
Yeah, for me it's my sister. I have two sisters who are younger, and my youngest sister is the one who does not look like the rest of us do.
My daddy says I look like the mailman. Listen, it's one of the things that I was kind of surprised about. Let's talk about a couple of things that were that kind of are Wes Anderson staples that don't seem to be here nearly as much. And part of that, I think the first one is due to the time frame, and that's the music is not as like poppy as we've kind of heard previously. Now, it's not to say that there's not music in this because there certainly is, but it's not. It's not your Wes Anderson style of music. That's more tends to end up being in like the 70s and stuff, and maybe even some 60s.
But I think that I think it works. I think it's that like AM nationwide radio stuff. It's the Mexican border playing country music because what they would do is they would put radio stations that were higher higher frequency and wattage than the FCC was allowing, and so they would just go to Mexico and make their radio stations there and blast their signals from there. And this is that style of music, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't believe I am.
Another one is some of now granted some of it's obviously just always going to be there, but like it didn't feel like he was following his kind of center camera style, if you will, nearly as much as previous movies would have us believe that he was doing.
But it's still in there a lot.
It's in there a lot, but there's a lot of separation. There's a lot of like I don't some split screens with juxtaposition on left and right sides and stuff, and we split audio.
Well, but I mean that comes from moving your camera, and it's not a handheld camera move. I mean the thing is on a tripod and he moves it 45 degrees.
Yeah,
I mean that happens a lot in this movie, and I think that you can't if your camera is moving that much, you can't have that center that he loves to have for most of his shots.
Yeah, it was interesting, and again, I do love kind of. Oh my goodness, can I tell you how excited and just thrilled beyond belief that I was in a theater with a proper 2:3:5 screen, and so the aspect ratio does properly what it's supposed to do, because this is something that he's been doing since I want to say Grand Budapest Hotel, of having different aspect ratios included within the movie itself. And I know for sure that he, tends to send letters along with the movies and stuff, probably digital form these days, but it used to be in print and everything, where they would be like, hey, here's what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be on this type of screen. Here's where the volume should be. Please and thank you, kind of thing. And this was played on the right screen, and that was so lovely to see, because especially with a movie like this that's not like a giant blockbuster release or anything, it usually tends up being on a smaller screen, and a lot of times those smaller screens are just 1:8:5 screens, and like this movie would suffer hardcore if it was on the wrong screen and everything. So happy that was a happy accident for us that we went to a proper theater that had something right, because you are gambling these days, boy. Unless you know specifically what you're walking into, it is a roll of the dice.
So, Adam, we got to pause here for a second because I am about to explode. I got to go to the bathroom so
Okay.
bad.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be right back.
Mhm. This commercial break brought to you by HMP. Patreon.com/HMP today. Pre-show. Post-show. I dig the song. Oh, yeah. All right. Welcome back, everybody.
Sorry about that, man.
Oh, you missed it. I thought I would get it just on time.
What?
I did a musical interlude.
So, but that reminds me of my favorite part of this movie, which is the kid who's, hey, you dare me to jump? Hey, you dare me to get on that cactus?
Oh my gosh!
And
First of all,
Liv
you want to
Schreiber
string
says, "What is the
this
purpose of
kid
this?"
up so bad. He is just like. And here's the thing, though. I think we all knew that kid growing up.
Of course, but his response
It was
is
so real.
and so dark. It is one of the darkest things I've seen in a Wes Anderson movie. Well, because I'm afraid that I will blink out of existence if you don't notice me. Oh my God. It's amazing. It's
just
amazing.
Like no one pays attention to anything I do. I just want to feel validated. Please, for the love of God, can somebody pay attention to me? Because I'm starved for attention. Essentially, is what he's just saying. It's like, oh, it's so sad, but like,
And the thing is that immediately Liv Schreiber and the other guy are like instantly feel bad for him, and they're like, okay, yeah, we dare you.
what bullcrap thing do you want to do now, kid? Please just go. It's like, God, we feel so bad for you. Just do whatever you want to do. Blow your hand off. We don't care.
It's so it is so dark, and it's my favorite part of this movie because it is so outside of what Wes Anderson usually does in his movies that it's such a wonderful moment, because I really felt like where that character was going to be sort of like what happens with the writer character in Royal Tenenbaums when Owen Wilson has that line of look, we all know that Custer died at Little Bighorn, but what this book is supposing is maybe he didn't. So, that's really where I thought they were going with this stuff, and to have it make that turn to get so unbelievably dark and existential is in a movie like this, it just like slams on the brakes in a good way, where it's like, oh wow, I forget how good Wes Anderson can be at that. And Roman Coppola, I know, has become his writing partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it. Roman Coppola is one of those guys who is a good big picture writer.
Yeah.
Not so much with little stuff. It's the big stuff with him that works. And so to have your minutia of Wes Anderson and then to have the outside view of Roman Coppola means that we're probably going to be getting these movies for the next couple of years that feel like this.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, while his movies aren't nearly as cheap as they used to be, they still, we're not costing Avengers money here,
Not even close, man. There's no way this movie costs more than, like,
I think this is cheaper in Budapest.
If this movie cost $30 million, I'd be shocked.
I think you're right. Now, let's, like, real quick here, because I think this is one of the things that I think most people, and I can't wait for the book, the Matt Zoller Seiss book that is surely to come out on the making of this, because I'll get it just like I get all of the other movies, books, Wes Anderson books that he puts out. I want to know how, like, I can't wait. And again, this is what's pissing me off, because I want to get this on Criterion Collection where we can see a lot of the great behind the scenes stuff. But if we don't even have Isle of Dogs on Blu-ray for Criterion yet. What are the when are we getting this?
Wow.
We go Isle of Dogs, French Dispatch, and now this. And you just said it. We're in post production for his next movie. I'm sorry, but why are these not on Criterion yet, people? Come on, give it to me. But that's what I want to see about this flick is just the behind the scenes stuff. What's real? And again, because somebody asked me, they're just like, well, it's just like all blue screen stuff, and I go like, I don't think much, if
No.
any, of it would be like. I'm sure there's probably some digital effects here and there. That's just
Yeah.
what's bound to happen. But I'm
Yeah.
like, they built the majority of this crap, and then
Yeah.
and the other stuff they built in miniature form and tricky.
Yeah, it's miniatures and it's painted backdrops. That's a lot of what this is.
Driving up to like the little horizon line there and everything, like I don't know, there's something about it. Like there is that just Wes Anderson-ness of it that just kind of goes. It just gets you. At least it does
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And it and again, that's like it's another one that I think if this was another director and I saw this, I would probably be more dismissive of it. Because like but his is one that like I watched this time and I go, I'm sure I wasn't paying attention to nearly as many things as I should be, because part of me is watching, the production value of everything, the style of it, because there's a lot going on. And so I'm not sure that I got as much out of the movie portion of it. I know I did, but not nearly as much as I want to. So I feel like I got to watch it at least one more time to kind of get a true grasp on everything, because it was just like I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of balls in the air at one time, and I'm not sure
Well,
if
it's the other thing too, right? Where you have, because generally the way that I was taught to write is that if you have a crazy situation, you have to make your characters normal. Or if you have crazy characters, the situation needs to be normal. It's generally the way that things are written. That is not the case at all with Wes Anderson. And so you have crazy scripts, crazy characters, and then on top of that, let's add on that the production design of all of his movies are also crazy. Then let's add on top of that the special effects in his movies. You're always trying to figure out how they did something. So you basically have 4 layers of things happening while you're watching a Wes Anderson movie these days, because it's watching the horizon line, right? I said it at the top of the show. When that car doesn't turn and it just keeps going into the distance, even though that's a painted backdrop.
yeah. It's like,
It's
wait a minute, what?
how did they do that? Like, it's just stuff like that, And so it's the things you're paying attention to. Like let's take for example here, right? Steve Carell is the motel manager in this movie. We haven't even talked about him because he's in the movie so little, but he's in it.
And he's pretty funny.
He is. He's great in it.
Yeah.
Everybody in this movie is great. Bob Balaban is in this movie. He's great. Somebody like Fisher Stevens, an almost unrecognizable Fisher Stevens is in this
Yeah,
movie.
you got to listen for the voice, and then you hear it and go,
Yeah.
oh, and I even thought, like, for a second, I thought, boy, the cojones on this movie to put her name in the title and in the title and everything, and just have Margot Robbie be a picture. I was like,
well, but they do. I mean, they do have that scene where
she's there, obviously. But like, I was just like, man, if you put her name in this and it's just a photograph, I was like, wow, what a pair. I love it. To me, that was like, I thought that was the most baller move in the world. Is we're going to get Margot Robbie in this movie. We're going to credit her in the movie, and it's only going to be a Polaroid. I was like, wow, that's a killer move. But I'm glad she was in it, and it made for an interesting scene and stuff like that. But that would have been an even bigger move, though, if she'd have just been just in the picture.
So I've got to ask
and she still complained that she wasn't paid enough.
I've got to ask the question that that we have not brought up, which is, and I already know the answer to this. So there's basically 2 questions behind this question, which is, how long do you think the discussion was had with Scarlett Johansson? By the way, you're going to be naked in this scene. How long did the discussion go before she said, no way, that's going to be a body double?
Well, I do know this, that number one, that is her.
Oh, is it really?
That is absolutely her. So much so that she ended up directing that scene because Wes Anderson was too embarrassed to do so.
Get out of here. Really?
That's the word on the street.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
So and what I think the more informative thing is that we do know now that if you blur it out, full frontal nudity acceptable for a
Oh,
PG
wow.
13. That's a
Wow.
PG 13 film that we saw that has blurred out but full frontal nudity. You know what you're looking at,
Yeah.
but it's a PG 13 film. I don't know.
Wow.
Who knew? This must still have some Fox behind it. Their Focus is that under Universal? I
Oh,
forget
man, I
these
couldn't
days.
tell you.
They've gone through so many different hands. It's tough to say.
I've stopped paying attention to all that stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Once it goes through about 15 different hands, you're just like, I don't know. It's all BlackRock. It's just BlackRock owns the movie entertainment industry. They old, your toothpaste and your movies. Who gives a crap? They just give it to them. Why not? All right.
Vertical integration.
Exactly. Now, before we get to our final reviews, we have to find out how this. It's the best thing I've said all week. How this Wes Anderson film relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone. Good luck with this one.
Well, I mean, it would be super easy, right? Because of Margot Robbie, but I didn't go that way.
I wouldn't figure.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Mm.
Hi, Mr. Stallone. This week, the Stallone connection is an actress that's been around for many, many years. She's been on Conan O'Brien several times, as have you. But the first time she was on the show wasn't as a guest, but she was playing a character named Sarah Hughes back in 1994. Turns out she's also the most famous person to appear in a movie that has the audacity to call itself Home Alone 3. And please keep in mind, this is a movie that boasts the talents of Alex D. Linz and Neil Flynn.
Ooh.
Who are they? Well, one was the kid who took over the Macaulay Culkin role, and the other played the janitor on the TV show Scrubs. I'll let you figure out who's who. But this week, we're talking Scarlett Johansson, a lady that's been on screen since she was in the movie North. I've never seen that movie because anyone who's ever seen that movie gets a really weird smile on their face whenever I ask them about that. And they go, oh, it's awful. So I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie. What I'd like to speak with you about is something that I thought was a thing of the past, like a relic, but that's the movie star. Here's what it is. I keep trying to edit the thing I wrote
Been there.
while I'm speaking it like an idiot.
Like, that's wrong. I'm going to fix it right here, right now. What do you mean that's
I'm
not
doing
working?
it on the fly like an idiot. But here's the relic of the past that I didn't think existed anymore. It's the movie star who thinks they should put out an album.
Oh,
Because
yeah. That was a classic time.
Scarlett Johansson is no stranger to movie star thinking they should put out an album. In 2008, she put out a music video for her song Scarlett Johansson Falling Down. And Mr. Stallone, I already know what you're going to ask. You're going to ask what everyone else asks when it comes to a Scarlett Johansson video. Does the video have Salman Rushdie in it? And the answer is yes, of course it does. And to answer your follow-up question, yes, David Bowie does perform on the song. If only we knew who wrote the song, all of our questions would be answered. Oh, wait a minute, we do, because the song was written by Tom Waits.
What?
So next time someone tells you that everyone works the same amount, it works just as hard at the thing that they're trying to get massive achievement in, remember that Tom Waits wrote a song that was also performed by David Bowie, and we've never heard of that song. Oh, and by the way, the guy who directed her music video is the same guy who directed Moneyball. Yeah, that's right. So thank you for your time. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Man, oh man, oh man. Well, here at Hero Move Podcast, we got our own patented Robin rating system. I'll start here. Asteroid City. Listen, I like this movie. This was not an instant fall in love with type of movie. Like I said, I need to see it at least one or two more times. I'll probably see it once more in the theater just to do it. And then it may be forever until I see it again. That's why I'm going to go see it in the movie theater again, because it may be 10 years before I see it on Criterion Blu-ray. So get while the getting's good, I suppose. So for me, I'm just gonna go Damian Wayne this time, kind of right there in the middle. Like I like it well enough. It delivered on the Wes Anderson-ness that I needed, but maybe didn't satisfy the story thing in me just enough yet. But again, I think after just one viewing, that's why I'm also kind of leaving it open and definitely want to see it again because I feel like it deserves at least a second swing. At least second swing, yeah, for sure. What about you?
For me, it's a Damian Wayne as well. This is my least favorite Wes Anderson movie is Darjeeling Limited because I find it so heavy-handed. The message of that
They
movie
got
is
luggage. They got baggage.
it's
Baggage,
it's
Sean.
just beating you over the
It's a
head
little
with a 50 style Louisville Slugger bat. Whereas this is hard to tell what he's trying to tell you. um, and so that's why it's middle for me. It's a Damian Wayne. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. There it is missing that one character. Like there's always the one character in Wes Anderson movies, of the really great Wes Anderson movies, where you're like, oh, that's the breakout character in this movie. And that character doesn't really exist in this.
That little redhead kid.
He is pretty great. You're
Yeah,
right.
he had enough lines. Like, but again, give him 25% more material than what he had, and maybe because like
Yeah.
he doesn't have quite enough. He's got like two or two and a half dingers in there, maybe but nothing too much more than that. If he'd had a couple more jokes in there, maybe he would have risen to that level.
I know I keep name checking Royal Tenenbaums, but there's that kid in Royal Tenenbaums who that car's got a dent in it. Fascinating. Stuff like that, where like that's kind of what this movie is missing.
I looked up like I went on like some quick research and everything just to be like, what's Wes Anderson's like marital status like right now? Are things good or like is there so many different...
Isn't he married to Fiona Apple or something?
No. So you're thinking dating back in the day for what's his face, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh, you're right.
That's what you're thinking. He's married to, I forget where. I don't think he's married, but it's one of those long term kind of things. They got a kid and everything. It sounds like things are going good. She's like she's artist of some type. I don't know.
Oh, cool.
You know how that is. But so he's doing all right over in that department. So because that's always, and like you think of the same thing because like his parents like divorced at 8, so you're always like looking at divorce stuff. But he even talks about in like the Tenenbaums commentary and stuff that he's just like, speaking of Roman Coppola, Roman was just like, write about your parents' divorce and everything. He's like, I started writing about that, but that's not what Tenenbaums is about at all, because all of a sudden these characters just took on some sort of weird thing that was nothing like, anything in his life at all. So you know that there's some parallels in there to his life in some way, shape, or form. But at the same time, too, I like that. I like not knowing, but like, that there's some personal stuff going on in this show. But it's also kind of nice that you don't really know exactly what any of that stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way. And like, there are a couple other authors out there and like directors and stuff that, when you see their stuff, you're like, oh, there's something that's deep down in there that like, they're not really letting everybody know, but there's something in there. And I feel like Wes Anderson is doing that, especially with this film. Not saying it out in front of everybody, but hiding under the cloak a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that is it, everybody. Another one down, and we got one more in the hopper here. The summer continues on a chugging. But, Sean, we got other things to worry about this week. This week is a big week. What do we got going on?
We have our newest episode of Marvel 30 Questions. This week, we're asking 30 questions of the new series Secret Invasion on Disney+. Check that out.
It's going to be a big one. Sam Jackson finally making it back to Earth after all these years being gone. Will there still be 7-Elevens when he gets back? Who's to say? We're going to find out this week in Secret Invasion.
All quick
30
trips
questions.
now.
They're all quick trips. They've gone away, which, let's be honest, better place. Quick
Oh,
Trip's better
vastly
than
superior.
7-Eleven by
Totally
like
agree.
a
Totally
million
agree.
miles. Need to have more of those.
Mhm.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're headed back in the theaters yet again to talk about one of the most nerdy properties next week, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Spielberg is out. We got, what's his face back in? Oh, shucks. Mangold is back in for director. I'm like, what's this guy's name? I can see his face. Why can't I see his face and not know his name? James Mangold in as director, and of course, old Harrison Ford coming in on a walker and is going to wow us one more time. At least that's what they tell us. So we'll see all that kind of good stuff next week. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. For the absent Bruce Leslie, Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.